So, it's your boy Aiden, and today I'm coming out with you with my top bands that you may not have heard of that I think you should give a listen to by far. I think they're really good, and I'm going to give some context in that. By the way, Ace, if your yellow 100% was all about the Pikachu hat, brought it back for this video. This is supposed to be a fun video, not too dark and depressing, just bands that I like, per se, since I constantly lament over the fact of music and stuff like that. I felt it was a good change of pace for the channel, per se, to do something more lighthearted, because I know some of the material I cover is dark and depressing. But here we go. This is my 10 bands you may have missed. So in previous vids, I've talked about sharing bands. I like them stalled because on my phone alone right now, I have 4,711 songs on my phone right now. Just songs. 365 artists, 671 albums. If there's one thing that I'm a super geek about, it's music of all kind of the variety. I listen to everything from fucking Panic at the Disco to fucking Johnny Cash, all the way to fucking Burzum to fucking Katy Perry. It's a minor obsession. But to give you context, on my phone right now, 365 artists is roughly about 30 gigs on my phone, which is the main device that I use to listen to music on my phone right now. I use my phone to listen to music a lot. I have my laptop, which recently just crapped out, but before my laptop crapped out, I had well over 300 fucking gigs of music. So, by the way, just in case you're wondering, this is going to be a long video. I've got a lot to say, and we're going through a whole fucking list. So, I hope you're ready for that, but hey, here we are. I wish I had visuals or some of the CDs to prop up, but I'm currently in the middle of a massive move, so that probably won't happen at all. I just cut down my CD collection to move to Washington from a stack that was almost 6 foot tall to a stack that was barely 30 CDs to now I've cut that down to 10 CDs. And some of my most favorite bands are not going to be on this list at all. There are bands that I really like who will not make the cut because it's bands you might not have heard. I will do an honorable mention though. And I warn you now, I definitely lean more towards rock music and metal than pop, country, hip-hop, shit like that. I can get into it, but it's not my preferred genre by far. I'm definitely more of a punk rock metal kind of guy. If you can't tell by the way I fucking look. But so, coming into this list, I listen to everything from pop to black metal. So this is going to be my list of bands and groups that I think are awesome and they're worth a listen. So starting off on number 10, Little Big. They're this weird little Russian group. They're not even little, they're actually pretty big right now. They often get compared to being the Russian version of Die Antwoord, which I also like Die Antwoord a lot. I like Little Big a bit more than Die Antwoord. I think Die Antwoord can kind of get a little too artsy sometime and just a little too weird, but I feel like Little Big keeps the weirdness just right. So if you're going to listen to Little Big, first off, I'd recommend music videos because their music videos are just fucking insane. They make the band, honestly, in my opinion. Hateful Love, AK-47, every day we're drinking. Like, these music videos are just out there, yo. Like, they're weird. And, like, you might not feel comfortable watching them. And I think that's kind of maybe the purpose of the video. But, like, you should absolutely give them a check out. They are just this weird Russian group named Little Big. Their videos are weird, and I would highly recommend watching the music videos first. I was working at a job where we had like an hour's drive time in the company vehicle, and I occasionally got to steal a radio. Little Big got played quite a bit. And they're just fucking weird, and like nobody got it until like I started playing some of the music videos. They're like, dude, I can see why you like this. And I was like, yeah, they're fucking awesome, right? But yeah, so that's my number 10 of weird bands that you may not know of. Little Big. Number 9, Beartooth. So Beartooth gets a lot of shit because Caleb Shomo? I think it is Shomo. I could be wrong on that. Could be completely butchering his last name, and if so, I'm sorry. They get a lot of shit because Caleb headed the last Attack album, which Attack were completely ahead of their time. They were a really good fucking band. But he was the last guy to carry on the Attack name, and they get a lot of shit about it. But, like, their albums are their first album, specifically, is very kind of dark, personal. You can definitely tell Caleb is dealing with his own shit as a vocalist and as a lyricist. He is absolutely just fucking... He's not in a happy place, and he's dealing with the fallout from Attack fame, trying to do his own thing. And, like, the album gets brutal. Like, there is, the last track on the album, like, has him fucking crying on it. And, like, I don't know if I, as a person, could do that on an album and throw that out to the public. Like, just... But at the same time, like, it's so fucking raw. It's a really good fucking album. I would highly recommend anything by Beartooth. All 3 of their albums are amazing. I've gone out of my way to purchase hard copies of all of them. There's not much else I can say. Like, they're a major band right now. If you haven't heard of Beartooth, I feel sorry for you. If you've heard of Beartooth, you probably know what I'm talking about. Or you're in the camp of, I don't like what he did to Attack. Everybody in Attack was super amazing. All those guys have gone on to do their own thing. And all of them are still pretty much involved in the music industry to an extent. Just Attack was a really amazingly talented band. But if you can get past the dislike of Caleb from Attack, if you know who I'm talking about, then you can get into Beartooth pretty easily. They're a really fucking good band. They are definitely in my top 5 of the decade. Absolutely. From there, we're going to move on to Breathe Carolina. So, if you remember Breathe Carolina was a emo screamo band from like the early 2000s, mid 2000s, somewhere in there. They had one gimmick: one dude screamed, one dude sang. And honestly, I could have thrown this up between the Bunny the Bear and them. I think I like the Bunny the Bear more, but recently the Bunny the Bear has a lot of other external problems that are going on with them as a group, to an extent. And they don't release music as consistently, which also kind of, like, vicious circularly goes back to Breathe Carolina. Breathe Carolina also does not release music consistently. Just 2 months ago, they dropped their newest album, Dead the Album. And it's fucking awesome. It is a pop album to the extreme. Like, it's only going for a pop album. There's no screamed verses on it. It has zero connection to their screamo roots at all. But it's a really good fucking album. Like, there's not a bad song on it. I can just absolutely recommend it. From there, I don't know how else to, like, just sell this band. Like, July, Tripped and Fell into Portland. Drive, Too Good. All these songs are really good. I should probably do a better job at like trying to give you some examples. I wrote like a half-assed script for this, and I started off with really good intentions, and then the second half of my script is pretty garbage. Actually, it's really just like, oh, these are things I want to talk about. So, and I know enough about some of them that I'm just going to talk about them, and I could be leaving out a lot of stuff about them, honestly. So from there, we're going to go to the number 7, Poets of the Fall. They're a Finnish band, and they're just fucking awesome. They are like, I wouldn't call them a hard rock act, or a pop rock, or I don't know where they fit in. But if you played the game Alan Wake, they are the Asgard and the Old Gods. That's the band that plays in the song Psychosis. That's them. If you played Max Payne, I think it was 2, the lead vocalist, which I forget his name because it's Finnish, and well, I'm a fucking American, so like, you know, not too up to date on how to pronounce Finnish names or remembering them very well. I barely remember my own birthday, honestly, so don't feel bad. But he wrote the script to Max Payne 2, if I recall correctly. I should have done some research before I did this. I did a script. I started doing a script. I was going to research this stuff, and then I just fucking didn't. But Poets of the Fall, really fucking good. They did that Late Goodbye. I think it was Late Goodbye. Was like just the theme song. It was so intertwined to Max Payne 2, which I didn't even know that till years later. I was reading an article about how he was like, oh yeah, I wrote that game, like I was like the writer on it, and like this theme song really was integral to this game. I didn't know this at all, but years later, like I can get it. Like it's really fucking good. All their music is really good. They're not too heavy. They're not too hard, but they're also, they can change it up and do a lot of things. Like you can go from Psychosis to Choir Cicadas. And they're just a really interesting group. And here in the States, I don't think anybody knows them. When I go to a bar and I go to a jukebox, one of the first bands I look for is Poets of the Fall. 99% of the time, not a thing on the jukebox. Just doesn't happen. No, not there. Hardly ever. But they're really freaking good, and I would highly recommend Poets of the Fall. Not super popular over here in the States, but they're fucking awesome. So now we're going to move on to 6. Gaslight Anthem. They are like this weird punk band with a very raw sound. Like they sound like they should be playing when Elvis was for their style. But this band was a thing in like 2005. It's a very raw, hard sound, and like they're just really good. I just cannot recommend them enough, and I'll die on this hill. Gaslight Anthem was an amazing band. And they also get to fall into a category of bands that I found out about way too late. They were already broken up by the time I discovered them. So, like, I really enjoy them. I listen to them constantly. But they're broken up. I don't think they've done anything in a while. They have not released a new album for a very long time. I think Get Hurt was their last album. And maybe they did a Sessions EP towards the end of their lifespan with the 59 sound, which is honestly one of their greatest fucking albums. Absolutely amazing album. I would highly recommend that as an album to listen to. There's not a bad track on it. Honestly, all their albums are really good. They were only around for a very short while. I can't hype them enough. If you haven't listened to Gaslight Anthem, you should. Honestly, they're really freaking good. And you can feel the same way that I do when you realize that they're really awesome, but they're not a thing anymore. Brian Fallon does do his own thing. He was the lead singer of Gaslight Anthem. He does a singer-songwriter thing now. And a couple other projects, but he's also really good. I just like the Gaslight Anthem a bit more because I was into punk rock quite heavily. So we're going to move on to 5. Amon Amarth. If you haven't heard anything about Amon Amarth, first off, fucking Viking metal. 2 words. Viking metal. Now, I personally adhere to a Norse. That was really wrong. I adhere to a Norse pantheon, personally, in my religious preferences. I say that having grown up Mormon, by the way. But, they just write brutal songs. I think Johan Hegg has some of the cleanest screams in the game. Like, they are just really easy to understand. And we're talking about a guy who just is like super angry while he's doing it. Sorry, by the way, I'm still getting over a cold. But like, his screams are super clean, super awesome. Absolutely cannot recommend them enough. Just anything by them. I think their later albums are better than their earlier albums, but that might be heretical. I don't know a whole lot of people who actually like Amon Amarth. I only knew one guy who did, and that's why we're friends, is we both liked Amon Amarth as a band, and we both were kind of like into the Norse mythology. But they're really fucking good. Like, just their entire Jomsviking album, absolutely worth a listen. It's this big concept album. It's all about, like, this. Just give it a listen, Jomsviking. Super good. Their newest album is really not that bad either. I don't think I like it as much as Jomsviking, but I get why they did what they did. They didn't want to get pigeonholed into just a concept album band. So, it's really good, too. But I guess we'll move on to 4. And 4, I'm going to throw a throwback in here. Bruce Springsteen, I don't know why it took me so long to like Bruce Springsteen as an artist. When I was growing up, my dad was not a big fan of him. And so I guess I just carried that prejudice for a very long time. And up until recently, I watched this ad for a movie where it's like it was Blinded by the Light, and they're doing Bruce Springsteen quotes throughout this whole thing, and I was like, these are really fucking good. These are tight. These are legit. And from there, I went and got his greatest hits album and downloaded the movie soundtrack, and he's fucking legit. He is been on my. I know I'm absolutely late to this party. Like, in the 80s, the Boss was the everything. Like, everybody was obsessed with the Boss, and I'm sitting here in 2019 being like, well, it's 2020 now, but at the time that I discovered him was 2019. I was like, dude, the Boss is fucking good. The guy can write. Like, he's just got some really good lyrics. So, and like personal songs I would recommend would be like The River, My Hometown. I think it's either My Hometown or Hometown. The Promised Land. Like, fuck, you just cannot go wrong with those songs. They're just absolute bangers. So from there, now we're going to jump into something that is absolutely the 2010s era of music. And that's going to be Eskimo Callboy. Which, fun fact, they had a drinking song that I liked a lot. It's tattooed on my wrists. I like them. They're a weird German, like, metalcore band, and they mix EDM from Europe into it. They're weird. They drew a lot of criticism for being kind of misogynistic in their early albums, but lately I feel like they've expanded their sound quite a bit. They're dealing with more Like, so like their early albums would have definitely been like when they were like high schoolers, middle schooler humor, and they were just doing things they thought they were funny. Which Muffin Puffernicker, I think it is. I could be pronounced. I don't have a very good. I'm not very good with German, but that could absolutely. It's all about the dude having his hamster die. Like, it's not meant to be taken seriously. It's fucking hilarious if you listen to it and you understand the context of it. Like, it's a joke song. But as they grew older as a band and they drew more criticism, I feel like they expanded their horizon. They started tackling more serious things, and I think they get lumped into a category like Attila or something like that, which I also like Attila. I don't really like the Fonz that much. Is it Franz or Fonz? I forget. But the lead singer of Attila can kind of be a douchebag, honestly. And I feel like they get lumped into that. And I also don't think they have a whole lot of play on the American side of things. But if you like Screamo mixed with like EDM, they are right there. They are awesome at it. They do it very well. Like I said, I'm 100% biased. I have one of their lyrics tattooed onto my skin. "We Are the Mess" by Eskimo Callboy, which was a heavy drinking song of mine in like 2013 to 2015. That was just like straight up my drinking song. It was really fucking good. But that's enough about Eskimo Callboy. We're going to move on to Law Dispute. Law Dispute at number 2 are weird. They don't do anything traditional. There's no verse, chorus half the time for their music. They are like poets who happen to play in a post-hardcore band. They're fucking awesome. And that's the best way I can put it. They're super fucking talented. I've already kind of talked about them a tiny bit over the, I think it was vlog 4. Kind of mentioned them. They're really freaking good. Such Small Hands. The entirety of the Wildlife album, or the Rooms of the Houses album, or even Somewhere at the River Bottom, which just had its 10th year anniversary last year. These guys are good. I would highly recommend them. I'll die on a hill for them too. I think they're amazing. I think what they're doing in music right now, specifically in the rock scene, is super interesting. And it's unique. It's them. Like, there's no mistaking them. Like, you won't hear them be like, well, I think these guys did this at one point in time. Like, you're going to hear them and you're going to be like, no, that's completely different. Like, that definitely goes outside the normal conventions at all. Andrea, to be specific, the song Andrea, straight up goes from, like, this post-hardcore song to, like, right in the middle of it, they do, like, a country western beat. Like, just something that would, like, happen in the middle of a showdown. They're really good. I would absolutely recommend Law Dispute. I can, unfortunately, thank Social Repose, who I'm not a super big fan of right now. But, Social Repose, absolutely reintroduced me to this band that I had dated a girl, and she had showed me them, and I really liked them, and then we split up, and I kind of forgot they existed until I saw his cover of Such Small Hands. It's a really good cover. I don't endorse a lot of his actions, and I used to be a massive fan, honestly, and I know I'm a much smaller YouTuber punching up at a much larger YouTuber, and I'm not trying to cause drama or anything. I don't support your actions, mate. I'm sorry. And it's kind of made me not support you anymore. But I do thank you for reintroducing me to this band, Law Dispute, because I forgot. Well, I didn't remember them, honestly, and until I, like, watched your video. I forgot how fucking awesome they are. And at number 1, I'm going to go with the band that I named my daughter after, and that was Alisana. And these guys have always been kind of popular, but not super popular. I would feel. I think I would safely say that as a fan. I've been listening to them for a very long time now. Like, they never broke mainstream, but they've always had a pretty devoted following. Currently, they run their own record label. They don't need me to do PR for them. These guys are doing just fucking fine. But what I really liked about them was there was 3 albums specifically that they did that were all one epic fucking trilogy of awesomeness. You went from Annabelle. The whole trilogy was called Annabelle, but the first album was called The Emptiness, and it's this heavily inspired Edgar Allan Poe story. It's just fucking awesome. You need to listen to it. Like, just get into the story of it. If you're not into Screamo, you're probably not going to like it. They were very much a product of their time, and I really hope they release a new album. We see where they go with it. But at the same time, if you're not into 2005 Screamo, you're probably not going to like it. And that could be the wrong year date for when the band released that album. But so the first album was this heavily inspired Edgar Allan Poe story, and it tells like this entire story, which then goes into the A Place Where the Sun is Silent, which is based off of Dante Alighieri's work with Dante's Inferno, heavily based off of that, which follows the main character from the first story into his depths of hell, per se. Everything gets a little weird by the third album. So the third album is based off of A Wrinkle in Time. And like I said, I like this band enough that I named my kid after them. They're awesome. But this video is at 26 minutes. I'm going to call it a night on this video because it's really long. But yeah, that's a thing. And this has been my top weird bands that if you haven't heard them, you should know them. I know I kind of stuck to a realm of rock and roll, but that's what I know best. That's what I like best. So this has been your boy Aiden. This is my top 10 weird bands that if you don't know them, you should. Peace.